The room feels ordinary, almost bored, until a single step onto the stage changes everything. Before I tell you how a Filipino singer earned a standing ovation in seconds, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this don't just entertain, they inspire, and you never know who might need this reminder today. Now listen carefully, because this moment didn't just shock a crowd, it awakened millions. Under the spotlight stands a young man named Rafael Cruz, 25 years old, shoulders slightly tense, eyes focused but uncertain. He comes from a small town in the Philippines where the sea is loud, the houses are modest, and dreams are often whispered instead of spoken out loud. Rafael isn't flashy. He isn't loud. He carries himself with quiet respect, the kind that comes from years of struggle. In his heart, he carries fear, but also a promise he made long ago. Growing up, Rafael lived in a one-room home with his parents and two sisters. Money was always short, but love wasn't. His father worked long days, coming home exhausted, yet every night he played Elvis Presley songs on an old radio. Those songs filled the house with warmth. Rafael would close his eyes and imagine a bigger world, a world where his voice mattered. But when his father fell seriously ill, music became background noise to survival. Rafael quit school to work, singing only when no one could hear. After his father passed away, the radio stayed silent for months. Rafael felt lost, angry, and invisible. People around him said dreams were luxuries meant for others. "You need to be practical," they said. And for a while, he listened. He buried his voice under responsibility and fear. But deep inside, every Elvis song he remembered felt like his father calling him forward. Years later, encouraged by his mother, Rafael auditions for a major talent show. Not because he believes he'll win, but because he can't live with the regret of never trying. Standing backstage now, he thinks about turning around. About how ridiculous this must look. A Filipino Elvis? He laughs nervously to himself. But then he remembers his father's smile when music played. That memory pushes him forward. The judges ask him who he is. Rafael answers simply. They ask why he's here. He pauses, then says, "To sing for someone who can't hear me anymore." The room quiets slightly. No dramatic music. Just honesty. The first note leaves his mouth, and time freezes. His voice is deep, soulful, powerful. Not just an Elvis sound, but an Elvis feeling. Within seconds, the audience stiffens. Faces change. Doubt disappears. The sound fills every corner of the room, rich with emotion, pain, and love. People stop breathing. A judge leans forward, eyes wide. Someone whispers, "Wow!" Before Rafael even reaches the chorus, applause erupts. One person stands. Then another. And suddenly, the entire crowd rises. A standing ovation, seconds into the song. Rafael's hands tremble, but his voice doesn't. Tears form, yet he keeps singing, pouring years of silence into every note. By the time the song ends, the applause is thunderous. The judges stand too, clapping without restraint. One says, "That wasn't a performance. That was a memory." Another adds, "You didn't copy Elvis. You honored him and yourself." Rafael can barely speak. He bows his head, whispers thank you, and wipes his eyes. Somewhere far away, his mother is watching on a small screen, crying quietly. Somewhere even farther, his father's spirit feels closer than ever. The video spreads like wildfire. Millions watch. Millions replay those first seconds, the disbelief, the shock, the instant standing ovation. Comments flood in from every corner of the world. People say they felt goosebumps. People say they cried. People say they finally believe it's not too late. Rafael's life doesn't become perfect overnight. But something changes inside him forever. He knows now that his voice has power, that his story matters, that no dream is too small, and no beginning too humble. And that's the real message of this story. Sometimes, all it takes is a few brave seconds to change everything. To remind the world, and yourself, who you are. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because the next standing ovation might belong to someone who hasn't found the courage to sing yet. The audience doesn't know it yet, but in a few seconds, everything they believe about talent, fear, and second chances is about to change. Before you hear how a Filipino singer earned a standing ovation almost instantly, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this aren't just meant to be watched, they're meant to be felt. Now stay with me, because this moment began with doubt and ended with history. When the young man walks onto the stage, there's nothing extraordinary about him at first glance. His name is Leo Martinez, 23 years old, slim build, neatly combed hair, wearing a modest dark jacket that looks carefully ironed but well worn. He stands under the lights, hands clasped together, eyes scanning the crowd like he's trying to memorize the moment before it disappears. Inside, his heart is pounding so hard it feels like it might escape his chest. Leo comes from a small barangay in the Philippines, a place where everyone knows everyone and dreams often stay private. His family never had much. His mother sold food at the market. His father worked construction jobs whenever work was available. Music was never a career option, it was a comfort. As a child, Leo would sit near the radio late at night, listening to Elvis Presley songs drifting through static. Those songs felt like escape routes from a hard reality. But life doesn't wait for dreams. When Leo was 16, his father had an accident at work and could no longer earn steadily. Leo quit school to help support the family. Singing became something he did quietly, almost secretly. People around him said, "Be realistic." They didn't mean harm. They meant survival. And Leo listened. He convinced himself that his voice was just a hobby, nothing more. Years passed. Responsibilities grew heavier. The dream faded. But one evening, while helping his mother close the stall, she asked him why he never sang anymore. Leo shrugged. She looked at him and said something simple that stayed with him forever. "Just because life is hard doesn't mean your gift isn't real." That night, Leo decided to try, just once. Standing on this stage now, Leo almost regrets that decision. The judges look serious. The audience looks tired. He feels small. When asked why he chose his song, Leo answers honestly, "Because it reminds me of who I was before I was afraid." There's a brief silence. Then the music begins. The first note leaves his mouth, and disbelief spreads across the room. His voice isn't just strong, it's emotional, controlled, and filled with something raw. It sounds like Elvis, yes, but more than that, it sounds like longing, sacrifice, and hope. Within seconds, people stop shifting in their seats. Eyes widen. A judge leans forward, eyebrows raised. The room feels different, charged, alive. Before Leo reaches the chorus, applause breaks out. One person stands up. Then another. Then suddenly, rows of people rise to their feet. A full standing ovation, seconds into the performance. Leo's eyes fill with tears, but his voice only grows stronger. Every note feels like a release of years of silence. When the song ends, the applause doesn't stop. The judges stand, clapping openly. One of them says, "You didn't come here to compete. You came here to remind us why music matters." Another says, "That took courage and heart." Leo bows his head, overwhelmed. Somewhere back home, his parents are watching, barely breathing. For the first time, they see their son not as someone surviving, but as someone shining. the performance goes viral within hours. Millions watch.
The theater is loud, restless, and impatient until one voice silences everything. Before I tell you how that happens, promise me one thing. If this story moves you even a little, hit the like button and subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be heard, shared, and remembered. Now stay with me, because what you're about to hear changed a room full of strangers in a matter of seconds. Backstage, under harsh white lights, a young Filipino man stands alone, palms sweating, heart racing so loud he thinks the microphones might pick it up. His name is Miguel Santos, 24 years old, born in a small coastal town in the Philippines where dreams are big but opportunities are small. He's wearing a simple black suit borrowed from a cousin, the sleeves slightly too long, the shoes polished but worn. In his pocket is a folded photograph of his mother, smiling despite years of struggle, years of sacrifice. Miguel presses that photo gently, closes his eyes, and breathes. He is about to walk onto a stage that has swallowed many hopefuls before him. Miguel didn't grow up dreaming of fame. He grew up listening. Every Sunday morning, his father would play old records on a scratched-up player, Elvis Presley songs mixed with Filipino classics. That sound filled their tiny home while his mother cooked and his younger siblings laughed. When his father passed away suddenly, the music stopped for a long time. Grief sat heavy in the house, and Miguel became quiet, carrying responsibilities far too big for his age. He worked small jobs, helped his mother, and put his dreams aside. But late at night, when everyone slept, he would sing softly, as if talking to his father through the darkness. People told Miguel he sounded like Elvis. At first, he laughed it off. How could a kid from a poor Filipino town sound like the king of rock and roll? But the comments kept coming: neighbors, friends, strangers at small gatherings. One day, his mother looked at him and said, "Anak, maybe this gift was given to you for a reason." That sentence stayed with him longer than any applause ever could. Years later, standing backstage at an international talent show, Miguel almost turns back. The crowd sounds intimidating, the judges distant and serious. He thinks about the nights he skipped meals, the times he doubted himself, the fear of embarrassing his country. But then he remembers why he's here. Not for fame. Not for money. He's here to honor his father, to thank his mother, and to prove, to himself most of all, that dreams don't expire just because life gets hard. When his name is called, Miguel steps onto the stage. The lights blind him for a second. The audience watches politely, some curious, some skeptical. A Filipino Elvis? People exchange looks. Miguel introduces himself softly, his accent clear but confident. He mentions his hometown, his family, and dedicates the performance to his parents. A judge raises an eyebrow. Another leans forward, waiting. The music begins, slow, familiar. In the first second, Miguel takes a deep breath. In the second, he opens his mouth. And in that exact moment, everything changes. The voice that comes out is rich, warm, powerful, uncannily Elvis, yet deeply his own. It's not just imitation, it's emotion. The crowd stiffens. Conversations stop. Phones lower. In just a few seconds, disbelief turns into shock. A woman in the front row gasps. One judge's eyes widen. Another smiles without realizing it. Miguel sings like someone who has lived every lyric. His voice carries years of pain, love, loss, and hope. It's as if the spirit of Elvis traveled across oceans and found a new home in this Filipino soul. But more than that, it's Miguel's honesty that hits hardest. He's not performing to impress, he's singing to survive. Before the first chorus ends, something incredible happens. One person stands. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire audience is on its feet. A standing ovation erupts, loud and unstoppable. Miguel almost misses a note, not because he can't sing, but because tears threaten to fall. He never imagined this. Not in his wildest dreams. The judges are no longer judging. They're witnessing. One of them wipes away tears. Another shakes their head in disbelief. When the song ends, the applause grows even louder, echoing through the hall. Miguel stands frozen, overwhelmed, hands trembling. For a brief moment, he feels his father's presence, hears his mother's voice, and understands that every struggle led him here. When the judges finally speak, their words are simple but powerful. They talk about courage, authenticity, and how music has no borders. They tell Miguel he didn't just sing a song, he told a story that connected hearts across cultures. Miguel nods, barely able to speak. He thanks them, thanks the audience, and quietly says, "This is for the Philippines." Back home, the video explodes online. Millions watch it again and again. Comments pour in from around the world, people saying they cried, people saying they felt hope again, people thanking Miguel for reminding them that talent can come from anywhere. His mother watches the performance on a small phone screen, hands shaking, tears falling freely. For the first time in years, she feels peace. Miguel's journey doesn't suddenly become perfect. There are still challenges, pressure, expectations. But something inside him has changed forever. He knows now that his voice matters. That his story matters. That dreams carried with humility and heart can move mountains, or at least, bring an entire room to its feet in seconds. And this is why stories like this matter. Somewhere right now, someone is doubting themselves, thinking they're not enough, thinking their background defines their limits. Miguel's story says otherwise. It says your roots are your strength. Your pain can become your power. And sometimes, all it takes is a few brave seconds to change everything. If this story inspired you, don't let it end here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because you never know, your support might be the reason the next hidden voice finally gets heard. Nobody expected it. Not the judges. Not the audience. Not even the young man standing alone at center stage. And before you hear how a Filipino singer earned a standing ovation in just seconds, do me a quick favor, like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us why dreams are worth chasing. Now listen closely, because this moment didn't just change a performance, it changed a life. The crowd was already tired. Auditions had been going on for hours, and faces in the audience showed polite boredom mixed with mild curiosity. Another contestant walked out, another hopeful dreamer. He looked calm, but inside, everything was shaking. His name was Daniel Reyes, 26 years old, from a quiet Filipino province where people work hard, dream quietly, and rarely imagine standing on a global stage like this. Daniel adjusted his jacket, white with a black collar, a subtle tribute to Elvis Presley. It wasn't flashy. He didn't want attention from his clothes. He wanted his voice to speak for him. Under the bright lights, he squinted for a moment, scanning the massive crowd. Thousands of eyes stared back. Somewhere deep inside his chest, fear screamed at him to run. But another voice, stronger, older, told him to stay. That voice belonged to his late grandfather. Growing up, Daniel was a shy kid. He barely spoke in school, avoided attention, and preferred corners over center stage. But every evening, his grandfather would play Elvis records on an old radio. The sound was imperfect, crackling, but magical. Daniel would sit quietly, listening, feeling something awaken inside him. Music became his safe place. When his grandfather passed away, Daniel felt like the world had gone silent. Singing was the only way he knew how to cope. Life wasn't easy. Daniel worked long hours, faced rejection, and heard countless people tell him that sounding like Elvis wasn't special anymore. The world has moved on, they said. Be realistic. For a long time, he believed them. He nearly gave up singing entirely until his mother found him one night, softly singing alone. She didn't say much. She just listened. When he finished, she hugged him and said, "If this is your gift, don't bury it." That moment brought him here. The judges asked why he chose this song. Daniel swallowed hard and said, "Because music helped me survive." No dramatic speech. No confidence act. Just honesty. The audience murmured quietly. Then the music began. The first note hit the air, and the room changed. It wasn't just that he sounded like Elvis. It was how he sounded. The tone. The control. The emotion. His voice carried something raw, something lived in. Conversations stopped instantly. People leaned forward. A judge's smile froze